This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Tuesday, September 16th, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Thousands of workers have been fired over comments made after the Charlie Kirk shooting as the investigation into Kirk's death ramps up. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
Strong emotions from friends of Charlie Kirk.
There's incredible sadness, but there's incredible anger.
I'm Rich Johnson.
President Trump continues a crackdown on Venezuelan drug smugglers.
Big bags of cocaine and fentanyl.
I'm Clayton Neville.
The S&P 500 index opens above 6,600 for the first time today. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
Luigi Mangione is set to appear in state court Tuesday over legal issues surrounding the case. Julie Walker, New York.
Ratings for the Emmy Awards keep going up. I'm Ed Donahue.
All ahead on America in the Morning. Top Trump administration officials are promising to go after left-wing activists they say are engaged in hate speech following the death of Charlie Kirk. With the latest on the assassination, John Stolnis has more from Washington.
As authorities continue to learn more about the alleged assassin of right-wing activist Charlie Kirk, Trump senior advisor Stephen Miller told Vice President JD Vance, who is hosting Kirk's podcast Monday, that they are going to be laser-focused on going after left-wing groups they believe are engaged in extremist behavior and hate speech.
With God as my witness, we are going to use every resource we have at the Department of Justice, Homeland Security, and throughout this government to identify, disrupt, dismantle, and destroy these networks and make America safe again for the American people. It will happen, and we will do it in Charlie's name.
President Trump and his supporters are blaming Kirk's death on what they see as a rise in violent rhetoric on the political left, and some of those same conservatives are targeting people who posted negative messages about Kirk in the hours and days after the shooting, some celebrating his assassination. Thousands of people have already been fired or furloughed by their employees as a result, including Washington Post columnist Karen Attiah, who said she was fired for speaking out against political violence, specifically lax gun control laws. Attorney General Pam Bondi tells Fox News some of the rhetoric they've seen has been vile.
It's free speech, but you shouldn't be employed anywhere if you're going to say that. And employers, you have an obligation to get rid of people. You need to look at people who are saying horrible things, and they shouldn't be working with you.
Federal authorities continue their investigation into 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, who they believe committed the murder. FBI Director Kash Patel on Fox News Monday morning.
We've collected information where, through witness interviews from the FBI and local law enforcement, that he essentially admitted after the shooting and assassination of Charlie Kirk, the suspect admitted to it. Furthermore, the evidence and information will come out. I won't stylize the evidence. The Attorney General is absolutely right. We can't do that. But I will say what was found in terms of information, a text message exchange where the suspect specifically stated that he had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk and he was going to do that.
Utah Governor Spencer Cox said Sunday Robinson believed in a far-left ideology and said he was involved in a romantic relationship with a transgender roommate who is cooperating with police. Utah authorities say they are preparing to file capital murder charges against Robinson, who will appear in court later today. John Stolnis, Washington.
Praise for Charlie Kirk continued Monday as anger against his assassination grew. Some of it happened on Kirk's own podcast, which was guest hosted by Vice President JD Vance from a high-profile location. That part of the story from correspondent Rich Johnson.
Hey, everybody. JD Vance here, live from my office in the White House complex and filling in for somebody who cannot be filled in for, but I'm going to try to do my best. My dear friend, the great Charlie Kirk.
The Vice President of the United States, JD Vance, hosted The Charlie Kirk Show.
The last several days have been extremely hard for our country. They've been hard for me, hard for my family, hard for the countless people in this building who knew and loved Charlie Kirk. And of course, they've been hardest most of all for his darling wife, Erica, and their two beautiful children.
Vance said that everybody inside the White House owes Kirk.
He was a joyful warrior for our country. He loved America. He devoted himself tirelessly to making our country a better place. He was a critical part of getting Donald Trump elected as president, getting me elected as vice president. And so much of our success over the last 7 months is due to his efforts, his staffing, his support, and his friendship.
One of Vance's guests was Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He recalled being a little reticent about submitting to a lengthy interview with Kirk in 2021.
By the end of that interview, I felt like I'd met a spiritual soulmate, and our friendship blossomed after that.
But the strongest words during the 2-hour live stream came from Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller.
There's incredible sadness, but there's incredible anger.
Miller recalled the last message he got from Kirk,
which is that we need to have an organized strategy to go after the left-wing organizations that are promoting violence.
Something about which Vance agreed.
We have to talk about this incredibly destructive movement of left-wing extremism that has grown up over the last few years, and I believe is part of the reason why Charlie was killed by an assassin's bullet. We're going to talk about how to dismantle that.
But dismantling may be too soft a word for what Miller said he has in mind.
With God as my witness, we are going to use every resource we have at the Department of Justice, Homeland Security, and throughout this government to identify, disrupt, dismantle, and destroy these networks and make America safe again for the American people. It will happen, and we will do it in Charlie's name.
I'm Rich Johnson.
No mercy for Venezuelan drug smugglers. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. You're with America in the Morning. A coastal storm will provide showers for the mid-Atlantic. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy with the forecast.
A strong but increasingly potent storm is just offshore along the coast of North Carolina to start the day. The system will gain some intensity as it moves inland, and there's a lot of moisture to work with along the Atlantic Ocean as it's about the peak heating for this time of year. And from that, there will be heavier rain building westward with some areas in northeast North Carolina and southeast Virginia seeing over 2 inches through the day into tonight. And this could lead to some localized flooding. Along with the heavier rain, the winds will also increase from the east, allowing for some rough surf and rip currents along the coast as far north as southern New Jersey. Rain from the storm will continue on Wednesday with a pocket of 4 to 8 inches and an AccuWeather local storm max of 12 inches. Other than the storm, much of the east will remain quiet with just a few thunderstorms in South Florida. There will be plenty of sunshine in most areas, and highs will be mostly in the 70s and 80s. Meanwhile, the storm moving out of the Rockies into the plains will lead to some gusty thunderstorms through parts of South Dakota into western and central Nebraska, eastern Colorado, western Kansas. These storms will contain mostly damaging winds, but there could also be some hail and flooding downpours. There will be additional showers and thunderstorms from eastern Montana southward through Wyoming into central Colorado and New Mexico. And then farther east, isolated thunderstorms will develop this afternoon from western Minnesota southward through western Iowa into Missouri, Arkansas, and Louisiana. A few of those storms could turn gusty in Missouri with some damaging wind. That's the weather across America. It's going to be a rainy, cloudy, and cool day in Raleigh, North Carolina today with a high of just 65. It will be a warm day in Dallas, Texas with plenty of sunshine and a high of 94. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. A federal appeals court has rejected President Trump's bid to fire Federal Reserve Board member Lisa Cook, leaving the president only hours to ask the Supreme Court to intervene before a critical meeting on interest rates kicks off today. The D.C. Court of Appeals decision was 2-1 in favor of Cook. Federal law gives the president the power to fire members of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors for cause, which usually means misconduct or malfeasance on the job. Trump stated he had cause to fire Cook due to allegations that she claimed in separate mortgage applications 2 different homes were her primary residence, which can entitle a homeowner to lower interest rates. Cook has denied the allegations. The Trump administration's expected emergency appeal will go to Chief Justice John Roberts, who oversees such appeals out of the D.C. Circuit. Shifting gears, President Trump says the United States has carried out a second strike on alleged Venezuelan drug smugglers in international waters. Correspondent Clayton Neville has details.
President Trump says it's clear that the vessel that was hit in an area the U.S. is responsible for that covers the Caribbean Sea and South America was carrying drugs.
It's spattered all over the ocean, big bags of cocaine and fentanyl all over the place.
He said the U.S. was surprised to come across a ship following a recent crackdown on drug smuggling out of Venezuela.
But we have noticed that there are no ships in the ocean anymore. We're seeing that there's like no ships, when the first one we went, there were hundreds of boats. Now there are no boats. I wonder why. Meaning no drugs are coming across, probably stopping some fishermen too.
The president said that 3 male terrorists were killed in the strike and promised future moves to combat drug smuggling by land. The Trump administration has accused Venezuela's president of collaborating with drug cartels and has boosted the number of U.S. ships to waters off of Venezuela, a move the Venezuelan government calls a criminal and bloody threat. I'm Clayton Neville.
TikTok ownership to transfer from China to the U.S. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger with the Tuesday Business Report.
Wall Street opens this morning after a winning day for stocks yesterday. Fresh all-time highs for the S&P 500 index and the NASDAQ. The S&P 500 index opens this morning above 6,600 for the very first time. Investors cheering some positive trade words from President Trump regarding China. Investors also looking for a Fed interest rate cut tomorrow.
Investors are clearly very focused on the idea that interest rates are going down, that the Fed is going to cut, at least at the short end of the curve. That's absolutely the number one focus. I will say the China news and the trade news is important because, while it may not show progress, it shows detente, right? It just shows things, maybe they're not going forward very quickly, but they're not going backwards either. And that is, the market just doesn't want to revisit Liberation Day.
MCC Global Enterprises CEO Michelle Caruso Cabrera on CNBC. Investors also watching the news about a U.S.-China TikTok deal, maybe?
Reps from both the U.S. and China meeting in Madrid to lock in a trade deal. Treasury Secretary Bessent saying both parties got to a framework deal to transfer ownership of TikTok to the United States. President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping expected to finalize a deal in a phone call on Friday.
CNBC's Brian Sullivan. The head of the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office tells CNBC the Trump tariffs are fueling inflation.
Inflation since January has come in lower than what Wall Street expected, but higher than what we expected. And it's probably the tariffs, right? The economy has been weakening over the course of the year, and you'd expect that to lower inflation, but the tariffs have probably been pushing up inflation.
CBO Director Philip Swagel on CNBC. Tesla's shares have erased their losses for the year, rising 85% up from their April low. They were up 3% yesterday on news that Elon Musk bought about $1 billion worth of the company's stock.
It is unusual for Elon to buy shares. Elon buying 2.5 million shares on Friday, totaling around $1 billion. It was his first purchase of Tesla stock since 2020, is being taken by the market as a big sign of confidence.
CNBC's Robert Frank. Coffee hit its highest since April as bad weather and tariffs hurt the commodity. Coffee prices were up in big cities in the new CPI report, the highest monthly gain there in 14 years. Brazil is the top source for coffee coming into the U.S., and it's one of the most heavily tariffed countries. KPMG's Diane Swank told CNN that coffee prices will easily exceed records as the full effects of the tariffs work their way onto store shelves. On today's watch list, the Fed begins that two-day meeting on interest rates. We also get retail sales numbers this morning for August.
Thank you, CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return on America in the Morning, the man accused of killing the United Healthcare CEO back in court after these messages. Luigi Mangione, the man accused of killing the United Healthcare CEO, is scheduled to appear in court this morning. Correspondent Julie Walker is following proceedings.
Luigi Mangione, accused of murdering United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson on a Manhattan street in December, is set to appear in state court Tuesday over legal issues surrounding the case. Part of what needs to be hashed out is whether the Manhattan DA or federal prosecutors will try Mangione first. The feds stepped in and charged him with capital murder, which carries the death penalty, something New York does not have. Under state law, he faces 25 years to life. The hearing could establish a date for the first trial. Mangione also has an illegal gun charge in Pennsylvania, where he was caught after someone at a McDonald's spotted him. He denies all the charges. The case sparked international attention and wide debate about targeted killings. The feds say Mangione had hoped to inspire others to embrace violence over reasoned debate. Julie Walker, New York.
It appears the 77th Primetime Emmy Awards were a hit with viewers. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports.
Ratings for the Emmy Awards keep going up. The Emmys telecast on CBS was the most watched since 2021.
I'm so profoundly grateful. I thank you. So sorry, I wrote this on the back of notes that I took in therapy the other day.
Nielsen says it was an 8% increase, about 7.42 million viewers. The all-time low was more than 4 million from the Fox telecast in January of last year, which was delayed by months because of the Hollywood writers and actors strike. The Emmys bring less than half the viewers of the Oscars or Grammys and significantly fewer than the Golden Globes. I'm Ed Donahue.
America in the Morning for Tuesday, September 16th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
More information being learned about the suspect in the killing of Charlie Kirk. I'm Clayton Neville.
The U.S. and Israel are showing a united front.
We stand with us in the face of terror.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
A potential strike has been averted that could have shut down the nation's largest commuter rail system. Julie Walker, New York.
A new report says the economy will weaken this year. Ed Donahue, Washington.
Chinese-owned TikTok finds a home in America. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
What were the surprises, snubs, and stirs at this year's Emmys? I'm Kevin Carr.
And a 140-year-old Lake Michigan mystery solved. Back after these messages. AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy has the forecast on America in the Morning.
We do have a storm moving out of the Rockies into the plains, and that will lead to some gusty thunderstorms in parts of South Dakota into western and central Nebraska, as well as eastern Colorado and western Kansas. These storms will mostly contain gusty winds, but there could be a few that produce hail and flooding downpours. There'll be additional showers and thunderstorms from eastern Montana southward through Wyoming into central Colorado and New Mexico. And farther east, isolated thunderstorms will develop this afternoon from western Minnesota southward through western Iowa into Missouri, Arkansas, and Louisiana. And a few of these storms could turn gusty in Missouri with damaging winds. It's also going to remain quite warm in the plain states with highs in the 90s as far north as southwest Minnesota and mid-90s in portions of Missouri into Arkansas. Farther east, we have a storm just off the North Carolina coast this morning. It's small, but will be strengthening, and it's going to be moving slowly inland throughout the day with plenty of moisture to work with from the warm Atlantic waters. So heavier rain will build westward in some areas of northeast North Carolina into southeast Virginia. There could be 2 inches of rain through the day into tonight, and this could lead to some localized flooding. With the heavier rain, winds will also increase from the east, allowing for rough surf and rip currents along the coast as far north as southern New Jersey. Rain from the storm will continue on Wednesday with a pocket of 4 to 8 inches and an AccuWeather local storm max of 12 inches. Other than the storm, much of the east is going to remain quiet with just a few thunderstorms in South Florida. There'll be plenty of sunshine and highs mostly in the 70s and 80s. The west is also going to be dry with plenty of sun. It's also going to be quite warm with highs in the 80s and 90s in most areas and hundreds in the California valleys and the southwest. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
You can follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. The suspect in the assassination of conservative activist and Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk will appear in court later today. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
The suspect's being held in special housing at the Utah County Jail ahead of today's slated hearing. There is concern that he could hurt himself, and authorities say he's not cooperating with the investigation. Investigators, though, do confirm that DNA evidence has linked the suspect to Charlie Kirk's murder. The conservative activist was shot and killed on the Utah Valley University campus last week.
The DNA hits from the towel that was wrapped around the firearm and the DNA on the screwdriver are positively processed for the suspect in custody.
FBI Director Kash Patel spoke with Fox News and said that the alleged shooter sent a text message before the shooting saying that if he had a chance to take out Kirk, he was going to do it.
His family has collectively told investigators that he subscribed to left-wing ideology, and even more so in these last couple of years.
While the suspect may not be cooperating, investigators say his family is.
There were people in his network, friends and family, who had stated that he had become more political, that he had become at some parts, I believe some of his coworkers had stated that he had kind of detached himself when the topic of politics came up.
FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino spoke with Fox News.
Whether it's OSINT, open source intel, through social media that people posted publicly, we'll be looking at that. We'll also be dropping a lot of paper, a lot of subpoenas out there to take a look to see if there was any extended network.
The FBI confirms that the alleged shooter was in a romantic relationship with a transgender partner who is a male transitioning to a female. The two are said to have shared an apartment in St. George, Utah together. The partner apparently is cooperating with the investigation as well. As for Kirk's family and supporters, the grieving continues. A service is planned for Sunday in Arizona, and President Trump says he'll be there.
I guess I'll say a few words. I don't know, but I guess I will.
Kirk's memorial service will be at State Farm Stadium in Glendale at 11 o'clock Sunday morning local time. Republican leaders from across the country expected to be there, to include Vice President JD Vance, who guest hosted Charlie Kirk's podcast yesterday. I'm Clayton Neville.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio is in Israel meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu with a clear message about ending the war with Hamas and making sure the terror group releases all of the hostages. Washington correspondent Sagar Magani reports the meeting comes as Qatar is hosting a summit of Arab and Islamic nations after Israeli strikes on Hamas in Doha.
Last week, Israel targeted Hamas leaders in Doha.
I'm not thrilled about it.
But days later, there's no public sign of Trump administration frustration with the Israeli move.
We are focused on what happens now. What happens next?
In Jerusalem, Secretary of State Marco Rubio met with Israeli leader Benjamin Netanyahu.
Your presence here in Israel today is a clear message that America stands with Israel. You stand with us in the face of terror, in the face of the incredible, I would almost say, Middle Ages lies that are directed against us.
They agreed the only way to end the Gaza war is by freeing all the hostages and wiping out Hamas.
As long as they're around, there will be no peace in this region, because they are not agents of peace, they are agents of barbarism.
But Israel's facing criticism over plans to occupy Gaza City.
We are focused on what happens now. What happens next? What role can Qatar play possibly in reaching an outcome here that leads not just to the end of this hostilities, not just to the release of all of the hostages, both living and deceased, not just the disarmament and elimination of Hamas, but also a better future for the people of Gaza.
Qatar is hosting an emergency summit of Arab and Islamic nations after Israel's strike on Hamas leaders in Doha last week. Many Mideast nations were already outraged by Palestinian deaths during Israel's war in Gaza. Its strikes on Hamas in other countries have led to wider anger. Qatar's emir says if Israel really wants to free Hamas hostages, why assassinate Hamas negotiators? It was an unusually fiery speech for a man who's been a key mediator in trying to reach a Gaza ceasefire. Netanyahu earlier said freeing the hostages is a central goal of the war, as is wiping out Hamas.
You can hide, you can run, but we'll get you.
Sagar Magani, Washington.
A threatened strike on one of the largest commuter railroads in the nation has been averted, at least for now, meaning several 100,000 New Yorkers will be able to get to work each day thanks to a union concession. Correspondent Julie Walker reports New York's Long Island Railroad will continue to operate, But the union is also looking to President Trump for help.
A potential strike has been averted that could have shut down the nation's largest commuter rail system this week. Workers for the Long Island Railroad say their members voted Monday to authorize the unions to call a strike if an agreement on a new contract is not reached. But leaders of unions representing locomotive engineers, machinists, signalmen, and other train workers say they've also asked President Trump to form an emergency board that will push the possibility of a work stoppage out to January at earliest. Gilman Lang is with the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and Trainmen.
The 5 unions that comprise the majority of the Long Island Railroad unionized workforce have either already requested or soon will request with federal authorities that a presidential emergency board be formed to make recommendations that could lead to a contract settlement. This action does not mean a strike won't happen, but it does mean that it won't happen now.
Some 250,000 commuters use the LIRR each workday to and from the city and its eastern suburbs.
We understand the hardship it would cause and will do everything possible to avoid that outcome. And while the MTA is willing to use commuters to play a game of chicken with our unions, days before Long Island is to host an international event, we will continue being the adults in the room. And we refuse to let New York State and the MTA embarrass our region on the world stage.
Julie Walker, New York.
Signs of a worsening economy in a new government report, and agreement over the sale of TikTok. Those stories and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. President Trump signed an Oval Office order Monday mobilizing federal law enforcement agents to Memphis, Tennessee, as part of a task force that will include the Tennessee National Guard, the latest planned Guard deployment in his effort to combat crime in U.S. cities. The White House said that the National Guard will be joined by a number of federal agencies, including the FBI, ATF, DEA, ICE, Homeland Security, and the U.S. Marshals Service. Trump said the request for the federal action came from Tennessee's Republican Governor Bill Lee, who was in the Oval Office for the signing. The move makes Memphis the third city to see National Guard troops on its streets under Trump's presidency, following deployments in Los Angeles and Washington, D.C. this year. Shifting gears, after anti-Israel protests forced an annual multi-nation bicycle race to end early, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez is calling for Israel to be banned from major sports events worldwide due to the war in Gaza. Correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports that Spain also summoned the Israeli ambassador to Madrid after Israel's prime minister responded to his Spanish counterpart's recent comments as genocidal threats.
Pedro Sanchez called for the ban on Israel after Spanish pro-Palestinian activists disrupted the final stage of the Vuelta cycling race in Madrid. Some protesters carrying anti-Israel banners partially blocked the road and forced cyclists to stop. More than 1,500 police officers have been deployed ahead of the final stage of the 3-week cycling race. In his speech to lawmakers, Sanchez compared Israel to Russia, which has been boycotted from international sports events due to its actions in Ukraine. He questioned the ethics of allowing Israel to participate in international competitions while its military campaign in Gaza continues. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
California no longer has the highest gas prices in the nation. That honor now belongs to Washington State, where a gallon of regular gasoline now averages $4.66 a gallon. They're a penny ahead of California's $4.65 a gallon, according to AAA. Oregon and Hawaii are the other states with gas above the $4 mark. AAA says a total of 20 states have gas prices averaging less than $3, with Mississippi's $2.70 a gallon, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana all having the lowest overall prices. Nationwide, the average price for a gallon of regular is $3.17. That's up 2 cents from a month ago and down 2 cents from 1 year ago. America in the Morning continues. The latest read on unemployment and inflation is in a new government report. On the projection of a worsening economy, here's correspondent Ed Donahue.
The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office report says President Trump's tariff policy, immigration crackdowns, and sweeping tax and spending laws are expected to increase jobless rates and inflation and lower overall growth this year before they improve next year. The outlook was updated and was originally released in January, before President Trump took office. The CBO outlooks attempt to set expectations for the economy. A White House spokesperson says Americans heard similar gloom and doom forecasts during President Trump's first term, when his economic agenda unleashed historic job, wage, and economic growth. And new policies are set to deliver, proving forecasters wrong again. Ed Donahue, Washington.
China and the U.S. have come to an agreement for TikTok to continue to operate under new American ownership. Chuck Palm has that in today's Tech Report.
It looks like the U.S. and China have just inked a framework deal to hand TikTok over to American owners. AP reports that after trade talks in Madrid, the U.S. Treasury Secretary announced a breakthrough in a deal where Chinese-owned ByteDance will transfer ownership of the social media video platform to a U.S.-owned company, resolving the national security headaches. The deal authorizes the U.S. to access TikTok's intellectual property in matters concerning things like its recommendation engine and access to users' data via their secret algorithm. President Trump and China's Xi Jinping are set to finalize the deal just before the current ban hits a Wednesday deadline. After years of tension and delays, the Biden-era laws demanded that ByteDance sell or face a shutdown over fears of Chinese government data grabs. The Chinese trade minister called out the U.S. several times for bullying, has hailed this as a basic framework of consensus to help boost economic ties. For more, find me at chuckpalm.com.
Tuesday Sports has arrived with plenty of NFL action. Here's Robert Workman.
Baseball Monday, a playoff preview in L.A. The Phillies edged the Dodgers 6-5 in 10 innings. JT Realmuto's sac fly plated the go-ahead run. Then David Robertson wriggled off a bases-loaded hook to end it. The AL-leading Blue Jays rally past the Rays 2-1 in 11 innings. Twins blanked the Yankees 7-0 behind the two-hit stylings of Simeon Woods, Richardson and company, denying Carlos Rodon what would have been his league-leading 17th victory. Cubs shut out the Pirates 4-0. Jamison Taillon and the Clip-Ons allowed just 3 hits.
Had a good pitch mix going tonight. I made a few mistakes when I was ahead in the count, and, I got bailed out by the defense too. So just all in all, a good night.
Michael Busch and Pete Crow Armstrong went deep. Astros slugger Yordan Alvarez sprained his left ankle in the first inning, but rookie Zach Cole stepped up with a homer and 3 RBI in a 6-3 win over the Rangers. Houston just a half game behind Seattle in the AL West. Tyler Stevenson's bases-clearing double in the ninth helped the Reds turn back the Cardinals 11-6. Braves hit 3 home runs in an 11-3 romp over the Nationals. Diamondbacks drilled the Giants and the Orioles over the White Sox. A Monday night football doubleheader. The Buccaneers tripped the Texans 20-19. Rashad White capped an 80-yard drive with a 2-yard TD run with 6 seconds left. And the Chargers beat the Raiders 20-9. 2 scoring passes for Justin Herbert, 3 interceptions for Geno Smith. Week 3 begins Thursday night with the Dolphins at the Bills. Quarterback injuries. Joe Burrow will be out until December after having surgery on his left big toe. Jake Browning is now QB1 in Cincinnati. The Vikings' J.J. McCarthy could miss a month with a high ankle sprain. Carson Wentz will fill in. And Washington's Jaden Daniels is day-to-day, like the rest of us, with a left knee sprain. Marcus Mariota is in the wings. That's Tuesday Sports.
Thank you, Robert. When we return on America in the Morning, a 140-year-old ghost ship found after these messages. America in the Morning continues. Who was shut out, who was snubbed, and who made some noise for their comments at the Emmy Awards? A recap from entertainment reporter Kevin Carr.
The Primetime Emmy Awards drew 7.4 million viewers on Sunday night, which was up 8% from last year. In a recent trend, though, the biggest snub went to broadcast television, with only 2 winners of the night, one for SNL 50 and the other for The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. The big winners were the newcomers like The Pit, The Studio, and Adolescence. In contrast, Severance went into the night with 10 nominations, but only won 2. Britt Lower got a surprise win for Best Actress in a Drama, and Tremel Tillman became the first black man to win Best Supporting Actor in a Drama.
Thank you to the Academy. I am full, I am humbled, I am honored, and as my mama would say, ooh, Look at God.
Snubs seem to happen to entire series, like the previous juggernaut The White Lotus, which went in with 10 nominations but was completely shut out. And the funny thing, which isn't really a funny thing, is that 2023 sweeper The Bear went home empty-handed in spite of 6 nominations. Hannah Einbinder from Hacks caused a stir early in the night with a political statement in her acceptance speech for Best Supporting Actress in a Comedy.
Go Birds, guys, and Free Palestine. Thank you.
Backstage, she explained she was showing support for friends delivering humanitarian aid.
I have friends in Gaza who are working as frontline workers, as doctors right now. I feel like it is my obligation as a Jewish person to distinguish Jews from the state of Israel.
I'm Kevin Carr.
Many thought it was a ghost ship that never existed, but thanks to citizen scientists, a nearly 140-year-old mystery has been solved. Correspondent Lisa Dwyer reports that a long-missing shipwreck has been found off the Wisconsin shoreline in Lake Michigan, a ship that was last seen in 1886.
Searchers have discovered the wreckage of a schooner that sank during a Lake Michigan storm almost 140 years ago. The F.J. King was a 144-foot three-masted schooner built in 1867 in Toledo, Ohio. The ship carried cargo across the Great Lakes for 19 years before she went down in a storm on September 15, 1886. Searchers have been looking for the ship since the 1970s, lending to the F.J. King's reputation as a ghost ship. Waves ruptured her seams, and after several hours of pumping, Captain William Griffin ordered his men into the ship's yawl boat. The schooner finally sank bow first around 2 a.m., with the ship's stern deckhouse blowing away in the storm. The crew were rescued by a passing schooner. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
America in the Morning for Tuesday, September 16th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.